Listen up. September 3rd, 6:17 a.m. My communications minister crashes through the door, face drained white, hands shaking. Mr. President Elon Musk just filed lawsuit, $4.7 billion damages, against our government. Claims we breached Starlink contract. His lawyers are threatening to cut all satellite coverage across West Africa unless we surrender. I feel ice flood my veins. This isn't business dispute. This is tech billionaire trying to intimidate sovereign African nation. I stand, walk to window, Ouagadougou waking below, my capital, my people, my sovereignty. One command, counterstrike. 12 hours earlier, SpaceX headquarters, Hawthorne, California. Musk reviewing reports. Starlink revenue collapsing. African market hemorrhaging customers. Burkina Faso defecting completely. Few months ago, March 2025, Starlink enters Burkina Faso market. Aggressive marketing, promises of connectivity, claims of bridging digital divide. Government partnership proposal offering affordable internet access for rural populations. I read the contract. 47 pages. Standard tech company language. Designed to sound beneficial while hiding control mechanisms. Designed to appear generous while ensuring dependence. Designed to look like partnership while maintaining dominance. Page 8, Clause 12. Service provider reserves right to monitor all network traffic for security and optimization purposes. Translation: Starlink can spy on everything, every communication, every transaction, every government operation, every military coordination, everything flowing through their satellites gets monitored, gets recorded, gets analyzed, gets reported to whoever Musk decides to share data with. Page 15, Clause 23. Service provider may terminate service at sole discretion with 48 hours notice for any reason, including but not limited to national security concerns as determined by service provider. Translation: Musk can cut our internet whenever he wants, can claim national security, can shut down our connectivity, can cripple our communications, at his sole discretion, with 48 hours notice. Total control over our digital infrastructure. Page 31, Clause 41. Subscriber nation agrees to exclusive service arrangement prohibiting deployment of competing satellite internet systems for duration of contract plus 5 years. Translation: we can't build alternatives, can't partner with Chinese satellite systems, can't develop our own connectivity, locked into Starlink exclusively. For contract duration plus 5 years, monopoly guaranteed, competition prohibited, dependence enforced. I called emergency cabinet meeting, showed them the contract, explained the implications, demonstrated how Starlink would control our digital sovereignty. My defense minister understood immediately. Mr. President, if Musk controls our internet, he controls our military communications, our security operations, our intelligence coordination, everything. My finance minister added concern. And he can monitor all our financial transactions, banking operations, trade negotiations, economic planning, complete visibility into our economy. My technology minister raised the strategic issue. This creates permanent dependency. We can't develop our own systems, can't build alternatives, can't achieve digital sovereignty. Trapped in his ecosystem. I made decision right there. We're not signing this contract. We're not surrendering digital sovereignty to billionaire who can cut our connectivity on whim. We're building alternatives. But I didn't announce the decision, didn't reject publicly, didn't alert Musk to my plans. I signed the contract, allowed Starlink to begin operations, let them invest in infrastructure, let them establish presence, while secretly building alternative. Because I learned from gold transfer, learned from WHO expulsion, learned from NATO corridor. Don't announce plans before executing them. Don't warn opponents before striking. Don't reveal strategy before victory is secured. April through August 2025. Few months of covert preparation, while Starlink expanded coverage across Burkina Faso, while Musk celebrated African market penetration, while SpaceX reported growing revenue from West Africa, I was building alternative that would destroy his monopoly. Partnership with China, negotiations with CASC, China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, discussions about deploying Chinese satellite internet system, Beidou navigation integration, independent connectivity infrastructure, complete alternative to Starlink. Chinese officials interested immediately. This would be first African deployment of our satellite internet system. Strategic demonstration, proof that alternatives to Western tech monopolies exist. Will provide technology, training, support, at cost. At cost, not profit maximizing prices Starlink charges, not monopoly rates Musk demands. At cost, Chinese government subsidizing deployment, making alternative affordable, making competition viable, making independence possible, training Burkina Faso technicians, sending engineers to China, learning satellite communication systems, understanding network architecture, developing technical capability, building expertise, creating independence through knowledge transfer, coordinating with Mali and Niger, Sahel Alliance extending to digital infrastructure, joint satellite internet deployment, shared costs, integrated coverage, collective alternative to Starlink monopoly. August 15th, 2025, Chinese satellite internet system operational in Burkina Faso, ground stations installed, user terminals distributed, network tested, bandwidth verified, latency acceptable, coverage complete, alternative ready, independence achieved. I didn't announce it, didn't publicize deployment, didn't alert Musk, just quietly switched government operations from Starlink to Chinese system. Military communications, intelligence networks, financial transactions, government operations, all migrated, all secured, all independent. Then I started encouraging private sector migration, subsidizing Chinese terminals, offering incentives for switching, creating economic reasons to abandon Starlink, market pressure undermining Musk's monopoly. August 30th, 2025, Starlink revenue from Burkina Faso drops 47% in 2 weeks. Musk's analysts scrambling to understand why. Market research showing massive customer defection. Subscribers switching to Chinese alternative. Monopoly crumbling. September 1st, 2025. Musk realizes what's happening. Understands I deployed competing system. Recognizes his contract prohibited this. Decides to respond with lawsuit, with threats, with intimidation. Typical billionaire response to losing market control. September 2nd, 2025, SpaceX files lawsuit, international arbitration, $4.7 billion damages, claiming breach of contract, claiming exclusive service violation, claiming lost revenue, claiming I violated agreement by deploying Chinese alternative. Lawsuit detailed, professional, expensive, designed to intimidate, designed to force compliance, designed to destroy alternative through legal pressure. $4.7 billion amount calculated to bankrupt Burkina Faso. Amount designed to make resistance impossible. Amount showing Musk thinks he can sue African nation into submission. Threats included, cut satellite coverage across West Africa, not just Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, Senegal, entire region, collective punishment, regional intimidation. Demonstration of power. Musk threatening to cripple West African connectivity unless I surrender. That brings us to September 3rd, 6:23 a.m. My communications ministers panic. Musk's lawsuit, his threats, his intimidation. The moment billionaire tries to force African president to comply. Prepare counterstrike. Not surrender, not negotiation, not compromise, counterstrike, because I'm not the president who gets intimidated by billionaires, not the leader who surrenders to lawsuits. Not the African who accepts Western tech oligarch controlling our digital infrastructure. I call emergency press conference. 10 a.m., 3 hours after learning about lawsuit. Not waiting, not deliberating, not consulting lawyers, just exposing, just fighting, just winning. International media, African networks, tech journalists, everyone interested in Musk versus African president, everyone wanting to see how this unfolds. Everyone watching to see if billionaire can intimidate sovereign nation. I walk to podium. Behind me, large screens, contract documents, network data, alternative system specifications, evidence of what I'm about to reveal. This morning, Elon Musk filed $4.7 billion lawsuit against Burkina Faso, claims we breached Starlink contract by deploying competing satellite system, threatens to cut connectivity across West Africa unless we comply. Let me explain what's actually happening. I display the Starlink contract on screens. Clause 12, Clause 23, Clause 41. Every provision designed to control us, every term designed to create dependency, every clause designed to ensure monopoly, Clause 12 gives Starlink right to monitor all our network traffic, every government communication, every military operation, every financial transaction, everything. Musk wants total surveillance of African nation, wants visibility into everything we do, wants intelligence access disguised as network optimization. I pause. Let that sink in. Let people understand what Starlink contract actually demands. Clause 23 gives Musk power to cut our internet at his sole discretion, with 48 hours notice, for any reason he determines is national security concern, his determination, his discretion, his control. African nations' connectivity dependent on billionaires' whim. African journalists in front row nodding, understanding immediately. Western correspondents typing frantically, recognizing this is major story. Clause 41 prohibits us from deploying competing systems, locks us into Starlink exclusively, prevents us from building alternatives, prevents us from achieving digital sovereignty, ensures permanent dependency on Musk's monopoly. I display network data, Starlink coverage in Burkina Faso, user statistics, revenue figures, Musk's profits from African market. Starlink has been operating in Burkina Faso for few months, generated $73 million in revenue, from one of world's poorest nations, $73 million extracted while claiming to bridge digital divide, while marketing as humanitarian technology access, while pretending to help Africa. I show the Chinese alternative, ground stations, user terminals, network architecture, technical specifications proving it works. Not theoretical plans, not future promises, not vague commitments, actual infrastructure. Physical ground stations installed across Burkina Faso, 17 locations, strategically positioned, covering urban centers and rural areas, real equipment, operational systems, working connectivity, user terminals distributed to government offices, to schools, to hospitals, to businesses, to households, thousands of terminals, all functioning, all providing internet access, all proving the alternative works. Network architecture designed for African conditions. Resilient, redundant, reliable, not dependent on single points of failure, not vulnerable to arbitrary shutdowns, not controlled by foreign billionaire who can cut access on whim. Technical specifications displayed on screens behind me, bandwidth capacity, latency measurements, coverage maps, uptime statistics, everything proving Chinese system performs as promised. Everything demonstrating alternative is viable. Everything showing we don't need Starlink. Few months ago, we partnered with China to deploy alternative satellite internet system, independent connectivity, no surveillance clauses, no arbitrary cutoff provisions, no monopoly requirements, just internet access, affordable, sovereign, independent. Partnership negotiated carefully, terms favorable to Burkina Faso. Technology transfer included. Training provided, local technicians educated, maintenance capability built. True partnership, not dependency relationship, not colonial arrangement, genuine cooperation. China didn't demand surveillance rights, didn't require monopoly provisions, didn't insist on arbitrary termination powers, didn't impose exclusivity requirements, just provided technology, trained our people, supported deployment, respected sovereignty. Contract with China completely different from Starlink contract. No clause allowing network monitoring, no provision enabling service cutoff, no requirement prohibiting competition. No terms surrendering sovereignty, just straightforward service provision, respectful partnership, equal relationship. I display comparison data, Starlink versus Chinese system, price, speed, coverage, terms. Every metric showing Chinese alternative is better, cheaper, more respectful of sovereignty. Price comparison first. Starlink charges $120 per month for basic service in Burkina Faso. Chinese system charges $48 per month, 60% cheaper, same service, better terms. More affordable, more accessible to ordinary Burkinabés. Starlink equipment costs $599 up front. Chinese terminals cost $240, less than half the price, subsidized by Chinese government. Made affordable for African users. Designed for accessibility, not profit maximization. Speed comparison shows parity. Starlink advertises 50 to 150 megabits per second download speeds. Chinese system delivers 45 to 140 megabits per second. Comparable performance. similar reliability, equivalent quality, no meaningful difference in actual usage. But coverage comparison favors Chinese system. Starlink coverage concentrated in urban areas, rural coverage spotty, service unreliable outside cities. Chinese system designed specifically for rural connectivity, better coverage in remote areas, more reliable in challenging terrain, superior performance where it matters most. Terms comparison reveals massive differences. Starlink contract includes surveillance provisions, Chinese contract doesn't. Starlink allows arbitrary termination, Chinese system guarantees service continuity. Starlink prohibits competition. Chinese agreement encourages technological development. Chinese system costs 60% less than Starlink, provides comparable speed, offers better coverage in rural areas, includes no surveillance provisions, contains no arbitrary termination clauses, requires no exclusivity, better service, lower cost, greater sovereignty. Better service because reliability matters more than peak speed, because rural coverage matters more than urban concentration, because consistent access matters more than marketing promises. Better service measured by what actually helps people, what actually connects communities, what actually enables development. Lower cost because China subsidizes deployment, because Chinese government prioritizes connectivity over profit, because partnership means supporting development, not extracting maximum revenue. Lower cost making internet accessible to more Burkinabés, enabling more schools to connect, allowing more businesses to participate in digital economy. Greater sovereignty because contract respects our independence, because terms don't surrender control, because provisions don't enable foreign surveillance, because clauses don't create dependency. Greater sovereignty making this not just better deal, but different kind of relationship entirely. I show migration statistics, customers switching from Starlink to Chinese system, government operations transferred, private sector adoption, market choosing alternative. Numbers tell the story. Numbers Musk can't deny. Numbers proving market prefers Chinese alternative when given choice. Numbers demonstrating Starlink's monopoly was built on lack of options, not superior service. In 2 weeks, 47% of Starlink customers switched to Chinese system. Government migrated all operations, private sector following rapidly, market choosing better option. Market choosing sovereignty, market choosing independence. 47% in 2 weeks. Massive customer defection, unprecedented market shift. Proving Starlink customers weren't loyal to service, they were trapped by monopoly. Moment alternative became available, they switched. Voted with their subscriptions. Chose affordability over surveillance. Chose sovereignty over dependency. Government migration complete. All ministries transferred, all agencies switched, all government operations now on Chinese system, presidential palace, defense ministry, foreign affairs, finance, everything. Complete migration. Total switch. Absolute commitment to alternative. Private sector following rapidly, businesses calculating costs, recognizing savings, appreciating better rural coverage, understanding sovereignty benefits, making rational economic decisions, choosing Chinese system, accelerating market shift, amplifying Starlink's losses, banks switching, telecommunications companies adopting, internet service providers partnering, educational institutions migrating, healthcare facilities transferring, every sector recognizing advantages, every industry choosing alternative, every user validating our decision, market choosing better option, not because government mandated, not because we prohibited Starlink, because Chinese system actually better, actually cheaper, actually more respectful, market making free choice, market validating alternative, market proving Musk wrong, market choosing sovereignty. Understanding that internet infrastructure controlled by foreign billionaire creates vulnerability. Recognizing that arbitrary termination power threatens business continuity. Appreciating that surveillance provisions compromise privacy. Market choosing sovereignty because sovereignty matters, because independence has value. Because control over digital infrastructure is strategic necessity, not luxury. Market choosing independence. From Musk's whims, from Starlink's terms, from Western tech oligarch control, from surveillance capitalism, from digital colonialism. Independence that Chinese alternative enables. Independence that partnership approach respects. Independence that sovereign nations deserve. I look directly into cameras. knowing Musk is watching, knowing SpaceX executives are calculating, knowing this is going global. Musk is watching from SpaceX headquarters, seeing his African market collapse in real time, watching 47% customer defection, observing government migration, recognizing his monopoly is broken, calculating revenue losses, understanding his lawsuit is failing, watching his strategy backfire. SpaceX executives are calculating, revenue projections revised downward, market share estimates slashed, growth forecasts abandoned, African expansion plans terminated, billions in projected revenue disappearing, monopoly strategy failing, surveillance infrastructure rejected, control mechanism broken. This is going global, media coverage spreading, tech industry analyzing, other African nations watching, Asian countries observing, Latin American governments studying, Global South recognizing pattern, alternative to Western tech monopolies demonstrated, model for digital sovereignty established, precedent for resistance created. Elon Musk is suing because he's losing, because African nation built alternative, because his monopoly is crumbling, because he can't control our digital infrastructure anymore. He's suing because he's losing control. Suing because he's losing, not because we breached contract, not because we violated agreement, not because we acted illegally, because he's losing market share, because he's losing revenue, because he's losing control. Lawsuit is business strategy, not legal remedy. Intimidation tactic, not justice seeking. Attempt to restore monopoly through courts since market rejected him. Because African nation built alternative. That's what threatens him. Not that we violated terms, that we created option, that we demonstrated independence is possible, that we proved his monopoly was vulnerable, that we showed other nations the path. Building alternative is real threat, showing it works is existential danger to his business model. Because his monopoly is crumbling, 47% customer loss in 2 weeks. Government operations migrated completely, private sector defecting rapidly, regional expansion plans collapsing, Mali terminating contract, Niger following, Chad reviewing, Senegal negotiating alternatives, monopoly crumbling across West Africa, dominance ending, control disappearing. Because he can't control our digital infrastructure anymore. That's the real issue. Not contract breach, not legal violations, loss of control. We have alternative. We have independence. We have sovereignty. He can't surveil our communications. He can't cut our connectivity. He can't prohibit our competition. He can't control our digital future. That loss of control is what lawsuit is really about. He's suing because he's losing control over our internet, over our data, over our digital sovereignty, over our technological future. Control he assumed was permanent. Control he built business model around. Control he's now losing. Lawsuit is desperate attempt to restore control through legal intimidation since market competition failed. The room erupts, questions shouted, cameras flashing, reporters demanding response. Everyone understanding this is billionaire versus sovereign nation. Everyone recognizing the stakes. Questions from every direction, overlapping, urgent. Everyone wanting clarification. Everyone seeking details. Everyone recognizing this is unprecedented confrontation. Tech billionaire suing African president. Monopolist trying to crush alternative through courts. Surveillance capitalist attempting to restore control through legal system. Mr. President, will you settle the lawsuit? Someone shouts from back of room. No. Single word. Definitive. Uncompromising. No negotiation. No settlement. No compromise. Just absolute refusal. Because settling legitimizes his claims. Because compromising validates his monopoly. Because negotiating surrenders sovereignty. No settlement. Ever. Will you remove the Chinese system? Another reporter demands. No. Same answer. Same finality. Same absoluteness. Chinese system stays. Alternative remains. Independence continues. Sovereignty protected. No removal. No reversal. No surrender to billionaire's lawsuit. No abandoning alternative because oligarch threatens legal action. Are you concerned about Musk cutting Starlink coverage? Western journalist asks, expecting fear, hoping for vulnerability. He can cut whatever he wants. We have alternative. We have independence. We don't need his satellites anymore. That's why he's suing. That's why he's threatening. Because we don't need him. He can cut Starlink coverage. We don't care. We have Chinese system. We have functioning alternative. We have operational infrastructure. His threats are empty. His leverage is gone. His control is broken. Cut coverage if he wants. Proves our point. Validates our decision. Demonstrates why alternative was necessary. We have alternative. Operational. Functional. Proven. Covering entire country. Serving government operations. Supporting private sector. Enabling connectivity. Alternative that works. Alternative that's cheaper. Alternative that respects sovereignty. Alternative that makes Starlink unnecessary. We have independence from his monopoly, from his surveillance, from his arbitrary control, from his termination threats. Independence that partnership with China enabled. Independence that alternative infrastructure created. Independence that sovereign nation deserves. Independence we're never surrendering. We don't need his satellites anymore. That's the fundamental shift. That's what changed everything. That's what broke his monopoly. We needed Starlink when no alternative existed. We don't need it now. Chinese system provides connectivity. Market provides choice. Independence provides security. We don't need him. That's why he's suing. Because we don't need him anymore. Because his monopoly ended. Because his control disappeared. Because his leverage evaporated. Lawsuit is response to irrelevance. Legal action is reaction to losing market. Threats are desperation of oligarch who lost control. That's why he's threatening. Regional connectivity cutoff. West African service termination. Collective punishment for one nation's independence. Threats designed to isolate us. Designed to pressure other nations. Designed to restore monopoly through fear. Threats that backfire. Threats that accelerate regional rejection. Threats that prove why alternatives are necessary. Because we don't need him. That's what terrifies tech oligarchs. That's what threatens surveillance capitalists. That's what undermines digital colonialism. African nation demonstrating independence is possible. Proving alternatives work. Showing other nations the path. Not needing Western tech monopolies anymore. That's the real threat. That's why the lawsuit. That's why the panic. I walk off podium. Ignore continued questions. Ignore demands for clarification. My statement is complete. My position is clear. My defiance is absolute. Walk off deliberately, confidently, not fleeing questions, not avoiding scrutiny. Statement made, evidence presented, position established, nothing more to say. Let the evidence speak. Let the market decide. Let the world judge. Ignore continued questions because answers are in the evidence, in the comparison data, in the migration statistics, in the customer defections, in the market response. Questions want me to justify independence, to defend sovereignty, to explain why we chose alternative. Evidence answers everything. Market validates everything. Results prove everything. Ignore demands for clarification because position is crystal clear. We built alternative. We chose independence. We rejected monopoly. We protected sovereignty. We don't need Starlink. We don't fear lawsuit. We don't surrender to threats. Clear, unambiguous, absolute. My statement is complete. Said everything that matters. Presented all evidence that counts. Made every point that's relevant. Complete statement. Comprehensive evidence. Total exposure of Musk's monopoly strategy. Nothing more needed. My position is clear. No settlement. No removal of Chinese system. No fear of service cutoff. No surrender to legal intimidation. No compromise on sovereignty. Clear position. Unambiguous stance. Absolute commitment to independence. My defiance is absolute, not negotiable, not conditional, not temporary. Absolute defiance of billionaire trying to sue sovereign nation into submission. Absolute rejection of monopolists trying to crush alternative through courts. Absolute commitment to digital sovereignty, regardless of legal threats or economic pressure. Within 2 hours, Musk responds. Twitter thread, 47 tweets, explaining his position, defending his lawsuit, attacking my decision. 2 hours. Calculated response time, long enough to seem measured, short enough to seem urgent. 47 tweets, excessive, defensive, revealing, each tweet exposing more desperation, each message confirming he's losing, each word proving the alternative works. Twitter thread, because that's his platform, his audience, his echo chamber, where he controls narrative, where supporters amplify message, where critics get blocked. Twitter thread instead of formal statement, instead of legal filing, instead of professional response. Twitter thread revealing this is personal for him, emotional, about control, not contracts, explaining his position, justifying lawsuit, rationalizing threats, defending monopoly, each explanation revealing weakness, each justification exposing vulnerability, each defense confirming he's losing market, losing control, losing relevance, defending his lawsuit as legitimate contract enforcement, claiming breach of agreement, asserting legal rights, demanding compliance, defense that ignores surveillance clauses, that skips arbitrary termination provisions, that avoids monopoly requirements, defense that focuses on contract breach while ignoring why we breached contract, why we built alternative, why we chose independence, attacking my decision as reckless, as dangerous, as compromising national security, attacks that ignore market choice, that dismiss customer preferences, that disregard sovereignty concerns, attacks revealing he views African nations as markets to control, not partners to respect. Burkina Faso government breached clear contractual obligations. Starlink invested millions in infrastructure, provided connectivity to underserved populations. Government violated exclusive service agreement. Lawsuit is legitimate enforcement of contract terms. Breached contractual obligations. True, we did, deliberately, intentionally. Because contract was exploitative, because terms surrendered sovereignty, because provisions enabled surveillance, because clauses created dependency. We breached contract, proudly, necessarily, righteously. Starlink invested millions. Also true. Built ground stations, distributed terminals, established infrastructure, invested expecting monopoly returns, invested assuming we had no alternatives, invested believing we'd accept surveillance and control. Investment doesn't justify exploitation, doesn't legitimize monopoly, doesn't excuse sovereignty violations. Provided connectivity to underserved populations. Partially true. Provided connectivity, but underserved ignores why populations were underserved, ignores that Western companies never invested before, ignores that connectivity came with surveillance, ignores that service included control mechanisms, provided connectivity but at cost of sovereignty, at price of independence, at expense of dignity. Government violated exclusive service agreement. Absolutely true. We deployed competing system. We partnered with China. We built alternative. We violated exclusivity clause. Because exclusivity clause was unjust. Because monopoly requirement was exploitative. Because prohibition on alternatives was colonial. We violated agreement. Intentionally. Necessarily. Proudly. Lawsuit is legitimate enforcement. Legally, perhaps. Morally, no. Contracts requiring sovereignty surrender aren't legitimate even if legal. Agreements enabling surveillance aren't just even if enforceable. Terms creating dependency aren't right even if binding. Lawsuit may be legal, isn't legitimate, isn't just, isn't acceptable. Notice what he doesn't address, doesn't mention surveillance clauses, doesn't explain arbitrary termination power, doesn't justify monopoly requirements, just claims breach of contract, just demands compliance, just expects African nation to surrender. Doesn't mention surveillance because he can't defend it, can't explain why satellite internet requires monitoring all network traffic, can't justify why connectivity necessitates surveillance, can't rationalize why service demands visibility into everything. Surveillance clause is indefensible, so he ignores it, hopes nobody notices, pretends it's not issue, doesn't explain arbitrary termination because explanation would expose control mechanism, would reveal that power to cut service is leverage, would demonstrate that termination threat is coercion tool, would prove that connectivity controlled by billionaire creates vulnerability. Termination power is about control, not service, so he doesn't explain it, doesn't defend it, doesn't acknowledge it, doesn't justify monopoly requirements because justification doesn't exist. Monopolies serve monopolists, not customers. Exclusivity benefits providers, not users. Competition prohibition protects profits, not people. Monopoly requirements are purely exploitative, purely about control, purely about preventing alternatives. No justification exists. So he doesn't attempt one, just demands compliance, just expects surrender, just claims breach of contract, reduces complex sovereignty issue to simple legal violation, ignores why we breached, ignores what contract required, ignores why alternative was necessary. Just breach of contract, just legal violation, just grounds for lawsuit, reductionist framing that avoids real issues, that dodges sovereignty questions, that evades moral considerations, just demands compliance, with exploitative contract, with surveillance provisions, with monopoly requirements, with sovereignty surrender, demands compliance as if we're subordinate, as if his desires override our sovereignty, as if contracts supersede independence, demands revealing colonial mentality, revealing oligarch arrogance, revealing tech colonialism, just expects African nation to surrender, to surveillance, to monopoly, to control, to dependency, expects surrender because that's what African nations have done historically, because that's what Western companies assume, because that's what tech oligarchs demand, expects surrender, gets defiance instead, gets independence instead, gets alternative instead. Chinese satellite system is security threat, Beijing-controlled infrastructure, surveillance risk, data vulnerability. Burkina Faso is compromising national security by deploying Chinese technology. Irony is stunning. Musk complaining about surveillance while his contract demands total network monitoring. Musk warning about security threats while reserving power to cut connectivity arbitrarily. Musk claiming Chinese system is dangerous while his system ensures Western control. Stunning irony, revealing either ignorance or dishonesty. Either he doesn't understand his own contract includes surveillance provisions, or he understands and hopes we don't notice hypocrisy. Either he's unaware his terms allow arbitrary service termination, or he's aware and doesn't care about consistency. Irony so blatant it destroys credibility, so obvious it undermines argument, so clear it proves bad faith. Chinese system is security threat, according to Musk, according to Western narrative, according to surveillance capitalism logic. Security threat because Beijing could access data, could monitor communications, could control infrastructure. All things Starlink contract explicitly allows SpaceX to do. All powers Musk reserves for himself. All control mechanisms his system includes. But somehow only Chinese system is threat. Only Beijing control is dangerous. Only alternative is security risk. Beijing-controlled infrastructure, supposedly. Actually, Chinese government doesn't control system same way Musk controls Starlink. Chinese contract doesn't include surveillance provisions. Chinese terms don't allow arbitrary termination. Chinese agreement doesn't prohibit competition. Beijing controlled is projection, is assumption, is Western narrative not actual reality. Surveillance risk from Chinese system. While Starlink contract explicitly authorizes surveillance, while SpaceX terms allow network monitoring, while Musk's agreement enables data access, surveillance risk from alternative. No surveillance risk from monopoly. Logic fails. Consistency absent. Hypocrisy obvious. Data vulnerability with Chinese technology. While Starlink technology creates same vulnerability, while any satellite system could access data. While Musk's control creates different vulnerability, vulnerability to arbitrary service cutoff, to monopolistic price increases, to surveillance by Western intelligence, data vulnerability exists with any system. Question is which vulnerability we choose, which control we accept, which surveillance we permit. Burkina Faso is compromising national security by choosing independence, by building alternative, by rejecting monopoly, compromising security according to Musk, according to Western narrative, according to logic that defines security as Western control. But actual security comes from options, from alternatives, from independence, from sovereignty. We're enhancing security by ensuring we're not dependent on single provider, on foreign billionaire, on monopolistic system. If Burkina Faso doesn't comply with contract terms, SpaceX will be forced to reconsider Starlink operations across West Africa. Regional connectivity depends on respecting contractual obligations. There's the threat, explicit, clear, unambiguous. Comply or we cut West Africa's connectivity. Submit or face collective punishment. Surrender or watch region lose internet access. Threat designed to pressure other African nations. Threat designed to isolate Burkina Faso. Threat designed to force compliance through regional consequences. Explicit threat revealing true nature of relationship, revealing power dynamic, revealing colonial mentality. If Burkina Faso doesn't comply, conditional, depends on our submission. Depends on our surrender, depends on our acceptance of surveillance and monopoly. Conditional connectivity, conditional service, conditional access, all dependent on compliance with exploitative terms. SpaceX will be forced to reconsider. Passive voice. Avoiding responsibility. Forced by what? By our independence? By our alternative? By our sovereignty? Not forced. Choosing. Deciding. Threatening. But framing as forced. As inevitable. As our fault, not his choice. Passive construction revealing avoidance. Revealing unwillingness to own the threat. Revealing desire to blame us for his retaliation. Starlink operations across West Africa. Not just Burkina Faso. Region. Collective punishment. Threatening to harm Mali, Niger, Chad, Senegal, entire West Africa. Because one nation chose independence. Because one government built alternative. Because one president rejected monopoly. Collective punishment designed to pressure other nations. Designed to isolate us. Designed to make independence costly for everyone. Regional connectivity depends on respecting contractual obligations. Translation. Regional connectivity depends on accepting surveillance, on permitting monopoly, on surrendering sovereignty, on complying with exploitation. Regional connectivity held hostage, used as leverage, weaponized against independence. Threat revealing exactly why alternative was necessary, why independence is essential, why sovereignty matters. Threat designed to pressure other African nations, to make them fear losing connectivity, to make them pressure Burkina Faso, to make them choose Starlink over solidarity. Threat assuming other nations will prioritize connectivity over sovereignty, will choose service over independence, will accept surveillance over supporting us. Threat that backfires. That triggers opposite response, that accelerates regional rejection of Starlink monopoly. Threat designed to isolate Burkina Faso, to make us stand alone, to make independence costly, to make alternatives seem dangerous, to make other nations abandon us. Isolation strategy. Divide and conquer approach. Colonial tactic. Threat that fails because other nations recognize pattern. Recognize threat applies to them too. Recognize supporting us protects themselves. Threat designed to force compliance. Through fear, through pressure, through collective punishment, through isolation, force compliance because market competition failed. Because customer choice rejected Starlink. Because alternative proved viable. Threat is admission of failure. Is confession that monopoly can't compete. Is proof that only coercion maintains control. I respond immediately, not on Twitter, through official channels. Presidential statement. Formal, authoritative, uncompromising. Not on Twitter because I'm not engaging on his platform. Not participating in his echo chamber. Not legitimizing his medium. Presidential statement because I'm head of state. Because I represent sovereign nation. Because I speak for Burkina Faso, not just myself. Formal statement because this is official position. Because this is government policy. Because this is national stance. Through official channels because this is state response. Because this is sovereign nation addressing tech billionaire. Because this is government rejecting oligarch threats. Official channels establishing proper relationship. Establishing correct hierarchy. Establishing that sovereign nation outranks private company. That president outranks CEO. That sovereignty outweighs profit. Presidential statement. Formal. Authoritative. Uncompromising. Formal because this is serious. Because threats against sovereignty demand serious response. Because regional collective punishment requires formal rejection. Authoritative because I speak with authority of state, with power of government, with legitimacy of sovereignty. Uncompromising because sovereignty isn't negotiable, because independence isn't conditional, because dignity isn't for sale. Elon Musk threatens to cut Starlink coverage across West Africa unless Burkina Faso surrenders digital sovereignty. This threat reveals exactly why we deployed alternative system. This threat proves why African nations cannot depend on billionaire-controlled infrastructure. This threat demonstrates why digital independence is essential. Elon Musk threatens, naming him, personalizing it, making clear this is billionaire threatening sovereign nations. This is oligarch trying to coerce governments. This is individual using corporate power against states. Naming reveals the absurdity, reveals the power imbalance, reveals why this matters beyond contracts and lawsuits. To cut Starlink coverage across West Africa, collective punishment, regional threat, continental intimidation, threatening to harm millions because one government chose independence. Threatening to punish region because one nation built alternative. Threatening collective suffering because one president rejected monopoly. Threat revealing character. revealing values, revealing that profit matters more than people, that control matters more than connectivity, that monopoly matters more than service. Unless Burkina Faso surrenders digital sovereignty, that's the demand, that's the price, that's the requirement. Surrender sovereignty, accept surveillance, permit monopoly. Enable control, surrender or face collective punishment. Surrender or watch region suffer. Surrender or accept responsibility for others' hardship. Demand revealing this was never about contracts, never about legal violations, always about control, always about sovereignty, always about who decides Africa's digital future. This threat reveals exactly why we deployed alternative system, perfect demonstration, perfect proof, perfect validation. We deployed alternative because we anticipated this, because we knew monopoly would become coercion, because we understood control would become leverage, because we recognized dependency would become vulnerability. Threat proves we were right, validates our decision, justifies our alternative. This threat proves why African nations cannot depend on billionaire-controlled infrastructure, because billionaires use control as leverage, because oligarchs weaponize dependency, because tech monopolists threaten collective punishment when challenged, because infrastructure controlled by foreign private interests creates vulnerability, creates exploitation, creates colonial relationships. Threat proves dependency is dangerous, proves monopoly is threat, proves alternatives are necessary. This threat demonstrates why digital independence is essential, not luxury, not preference, not optional, essential, necessary, critical, because without independence we're vulnerable to threats, vulnerable to coercion, vulnerable to collective punishment, because without alternatives we're hostage to monopolists, because without sovereignty we're subject to oligarch whims. Digital independence is essential. Threat proves it, validates it, demands it. Musk claims Chinese system is security threat. But Starlink contract gives SpaceX right to monitor all network traffic. Starlink terms allow arbitrary service termination. Starlink provisions prohibit competition. Which system is real security threat? System that surveils everything or system that respects sovereignty? Musk claims Chinese system is security threat. But let's examine actual threats. Let's compare actual risks. Let's evaluate actual security implications. Claims versus reality. Rhetoric versus facts. Propaganda versus evidence. Starlink contract gives SpaceX right to monitor all network traffic. Actual surveillance provision. Actual security threat. Actual vulnerability. SpaceX can see everything, monitor everything. Record everything. Every government communication. Every military coordination. Every financial transaction. Every private message. Everything. That's actual security threat. That's real vulnerability. That's documented risk in signed contract. Starlink terms allow arbitrary service termination, actual control mechanism, actual leverage tool, actual coercion capability. Musk can cut connectivity whenever he wants, for whatever reason he determines. With whatever justification he provides, can cripple government operations, can disable military communications, can shut down economic activity, can create crisis. That's actual security threat. That's real vulnerability. That's documented power in signed agreement. Starlink provisions prohibit competition, actual monopoly requirement, actual dependency creation, actual alternative prevention, can't build backup systems, can't develop redundancy, can't create options, locked into single provider, dependent on one company, vulnerable to one person's decisions. That's actual security threat. That's real vulnerability. That's documented constraint in signed contract. Which system is real security threat? Question forcing honest evaluation. Question demanding logical analysis. Question exposing hypocrisy. System that surveils everything? Starlink. System that enables arbitrary termination? Starlink. System that prohibits alternatives? Starlink. Or system that respects sovereignty? Chinese alternative. System that doesn't include surveillance provisions? Chinese alternative. System that doesn't allow arbitrary cutoffs? Chinese alternative. System that surveils everything? That's Starlink. That's documented in contract. That's actual provision. That's real threat. Surveillance of all network traffic. Monitoring of all communications. Visibility into everything. That's security threat. That's vulnerability. That's why alternative was necessary. Or system that respects sovereignty. That's Chinese alternative. That's documented in agreement. That's actual terms. That's real difference. No surveillance provisions. No arbitrary termination clauses. No monopoly requirements. That's security. That's protection. That's why alternative works. Musk can cut Starlink coverage if he chooses. Burkina Faso has alternative. Mali has alternative. Niger has alternative. West Africa is building digital independence. We don't need his satellites. We don't need his surveillance. We don't need his monopoly. Musk can cut Starlink coverage. He has that power. That's in the contract. That's his threat. He can cut coverage, can disable service, can terminate connectivity. He can do it. That's the threat. That's the leverage. That's the control mechanism. He can cut coverage if he chooses. His choice, his decision, his power. Not regulated, not constrained, not accountable. If he chooses, for any reason, at any time, with any justification. If he chooses. That's the vulnerability. That's the dependency. That's the problem. His choice controls our connectivity. His decision affects our communications. His power impacts our sovereignty. Burkina Faso has alternative. That's the answer. That's the solution. That's the protection. We have alternative. Chinese system operational. Infrastructure deployed. Connectivity functioning. We have alternative. So his threat is empty. His leverage is gone. His control is broken. We have alternative. That changes everything. Mali has alternative. They deployed Chinese system too. They built independence too. They protected sovereignty too. Mali has alternative. So Musk's threat affects them less. So regional punishment fails. So collective coercion doesn't work. Mali has alternative. They're protected. They're independent. They're sovereign. Niger has alternative. Same story. Same system. Same independence. Niger has alternative. Chinese infrastructure deployed. Connectivity established. Sovereignty protected. Niger has alternative, making them immune to threats, resistant to coercion, independent of monopoly. West Africa is building digital independence. Not just three nations. Region. Movement. Transformation. West Africa building independence. Through alternatives. Through partnerships. Through sovereignty protection, building independence that makes threats meaningless, that makes monopolies impossible, that makes surveillance unacceptable. We don't need his satellites. That's the fundamental shift. That's the game changer. That's the revolution. We don't need Starlink. We have alternatives. We have options. We have independence. Don't need his satellites. Don't need his service. Don't need his infrastructure. Don't need him. We don't need his surveillance. Don't need monitoring provisions. Don't need network visibility. Don't need his eyes on our communications. Don't need his access to our data. Don't need his surveillance. Have connectivity without it. Have service without it. Have independence without it. We don't need his monopoly. Don't need exclusivity requirements. Don't need competition prohibition. Don't need single provider dependency. Don't need his monopoly. Have alternatives. Have choices. Have options. Have independence. Don't need monopoly. Don't accept monopoly. Don't tolerate monopoly. I announce expansion of Chinese satellite system, not just Burkina Faso, regional deployment, Sahel Alliance, digital infrastructure, coordinated alternative to Starlink monopoly. Expansion beyond Burkina Faso, beyond single nation, regional solution, continental approach. Expansion proving this isn't isolated, isn't temporary, isn't reversible. Expansion demonstrating commitment, demonstrating coordination, demonstrating that alternative is becoming system, is becoming network, is becoming permanent. Regional deployment across Sahel, Mali, Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, Senegal. Regional coverage, integrated infrastructure, coordinated systems. Regional deployment creating redundancy, creating resilience, creating collective independence. No single nation vulnerable, no single government exposed, no single president threatened. Regional deployment protecting everyone, supporting everyone, liberating everyone. Sahel Alliance digital infrastructure, not just satellite internet, complete digital infrastructure, fiber optic networks, data centers, technology hubs, digital infrastructure building comprehensive alternative, building complete independence, building sovereign technology ecosystem, Sahel Alliance digital infrastructure competing with Western monopolies, challenging surveillance capitalism, establishing African digital sovereignty, coordinated alternative to Starlink monopoly, coordinated between nations, coordinated with China, coordinated against monopoly, coordination making alternative stronger, making resistance effective, making independence sustainable, coordinated alternative that Musk can't defeat, that lawsuits can't stop, that threats can't prevent. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are jointly deploying Chinese satellite internet system, integrated coverage, shared infrastructure, collective independence, regional alternative to Western tech monopoly. If Musk cuts Starlink, we have replacement ready. If SpaceX abandons West Africa, Chinese system fills gap. If billionaire chooses profit over service, sovereign nations choose independence. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, 3 nations, Sahel Alliance, coordinated action, joint deployment, proving this is movement, proving this is strategy, proving this is permanent. 3 nations together, supporting each other, protecting each other, liberating each other, jointly deploying Chinese satellite internet system, joint deployment, shared costs, coordinated implementation, joint deployment making it affordable, making it sustainable, making it permanent. Joint deployment, creating economies of scale, creating negotiating leverage, creating collective strength. Integrated coverage across 3 nations, no borders in connectivity, no gaps in service, no divisions in infrastructure. Integrated coverage creating seamless system, creating regional network, creating continental foundation, integrated coverage making alternative comprehensive, making independence complete, making sovereignty real. Shared infrastructure reducing costs, reducing vulnerability, reducing dependency. Shared infrastructure meaning no single nation bears full burden, no single government faces full risk, no single president stands alone. Shared infrastructure creating collective security, creating mutual protection, creating regional resilience. Collective independence, not just national independence, regional independence, collective sovereignty, independence that's stronger because it's shared, because it's coordinated, because it's collective. Collective independence protecting all 3 nations, supporting all 3 governments, liberating all 3 peoples. Regional alternative to Western tech monopoly, alternative that works, alternative that's affordable, alternative that respects sovereignty. Regional alternative proving monopolies aren't inevitable, proving independence is possible, proving sovereignty can be defended. Regional alternative changing power dynamics, changing technology relationships, changing colonial patterns. If Musk cuts Starlink, we have replacement ready. Conditional threat meets prepared response. If he cuts service, Chinese system replaces it. If he terminates contracts, alternatives activate. If he chooses punishment, we choose independence. Replacement ready. Operational. Functional. Proven. Replacement. Making his threats empty. Making his leverage worthless. Making his control impossible. If SpaceX abandons West Africa, Chinese system fills gap. Conditional abandonment meets permanent solution. If SpaceX leaves, Chinese system stays. If American company withdraws, Chinese partnership continues. If Western monopoly fails, African-Chinese cooperation succeeds. Chinese system filling gap, providing service, ensuring connectivity, protecting sovereignty. If billionaire chooses profit over service, sovereign nations choose independence. Conditional priorities meet absolute values. If Musk prioritizes profit, we prioritize sovereignty. If oligarch chooses money, nations choose freedom. If monopolist selects control, governments select independence. Choice revealing values, revealing priorities, revealing that sovereignty matters more than service, that independence matters more than connectivity, that dignity matters more than convenience. Within 6 hours, Mali announces Starlink contract termination. Presidential decree, immediate effect. All government operations migrating to Chinese system. Private sector encouraged to switch. Market incentives for adoption. 6 hours, rapid response, coordinated action, planned reaction, Mali announcing termination, not coincidence, not spontaneous, coordinated, planned, prepared. 6 hours after my announcement, after my statement, after my expansion declaration, 6 hours proving coordination, proving solidarity, proving regional unity. Mali announces Starlink contract termination. Official, legal, permanent, Presidential decree. Highest authority. Immediate effect. Termination, not negotiation, not revision. Not suspension, termination, permanent, final, complete. Mali terminating Starlink. Choosing Chinese alternative. Choosing independence. Choosing sovereignty. Presidential decree. Formal authority. Legal power. Sovereign decision. Presidential decree making termination official. Making it binding. Making it permanent. Presidential decree demonstrating this is government policy. State decision. National choice. Not private preference. Not temporary measure, not negotiable position. Presidential decree establishing permanence, establishing commitment, establishing finality. Immediate effect, no transition period, no grace period, no delay, immediate, today, now. Immediate effect demonstrating urgency, demonstrating seriousness, demonstrating that this isn't negotiation, isn't trial, isn't temporary. Immediate effect making clear Mali's position, Mali's commitment, Mali's sovereignty. All government operations migrating to Chinese system. Complete migration, total switch, absolute commitment, all operations, Defense Ministry, Foreign Affairs, Finance, Interior, everything, migrating to Chinese system, abandoning Starlink, choosing alternative, choosing independence, complete migration, demonstrating confidence, demonstrating that alternative works, demonstrating that independence is viable. Private sector encouraged to switch, not mandated, not forced, encouraged, government providing incentives, offering subsidies, creating conditions, private sector encouraged meaning market choice. Customer decision, economic calculation, encouraged, not forced, demonstrating confidence that alternative is better, that market will choose independence, that customers will select sovereignty. Market incentives for adoption, subsidies, tax breaks, preferential treatment, market incentives making Chinese system more attractive, making switch easier, making independence affordable. Market incentives demonstrating government commitment, demonstrating resource allocation, demonstrating that digital sovereignty is priority. Mali will not be threatened by tech billionaire, will not accept surveillance provisions, will not surrender digital sovereignty. Starlink operations in Mali are terminated. Chinese alternative is deployed. Digital independence is achieved. Mali will not be threatened. Direct response to Musk's threat, direct rejection of coercion, direct assertion of sovereignty will not be threatened, not by billionaire, not by monopolist, not by oligarch, not by anyone. Mali asserting sovereignty, asserting independence, asserting dignity, will not be threatened, period. By tech billionaire, specific, personal, direct, not by company, not by corporation, not by service provider, by tech billionaire, by Elon Musk. By individual using corporate power to threaten sovereign nation, by oligarch thinking money gives him authority over governments, by billionaire assuming wealth creates power over states. Mali rejecting that assumption, rejecting that power, rejecting that authority, will not accept surveillance provisions, direct rejection of Starlink contract terms, direct refusal of monitoring clauses, direct protection of privacy, will not accept surveillance, not for connectivity, not for service, not for technology, will not accept surveillance provisions, Mali protecting communications, protecting data, protecting sovereignty, will not accept surveillance, ever. Will not surrender digital sovereignty, core principle, fundamental value, absolute commitment, will not surrender sovereignty, not for service, not for connectivity, not for technology, not for anything. Digital sovereignty non-negotiable, digital independence essential, digital freedom absolute. Mali will not surrender it, will not compromise it, will not trade it. Starlink operations in Mali are terminated. Statement of fact, declaration of reality, announcement of decision. Operations terminated, not suspended, not paused, not under review. Terminated, ended, finished. Starlink operations in Mali terminated, permanently, completely, finally. Chinese alternative is deployed, replacement ready, system operational, infrastructure functioning, Chinese alternative deployed, providing service, ensuring connectivity, enabling independence. Deployed meaning operational, meaning functional, meaning proven, Chinese alternative deployed, working, serving, succeeding. Digital independence is achieved, declaration of success, statement of accomplishment, announcement of victory. Independence achieved, not pursued, not attempted, not planned, achieved, accomplished, realized. Mali achieved digital independence through alternative deployment, through Starlink termination, through sovereignty protection, achieved complete permanent. Niger follows 3 hours later. Same announcement, same termination, same alternative, same independence. 3 hours after Mali, coordinated timing, planned sequence, strategic rollout, Niger following, not coincidence, not independent decision, coordinated, planned, prepared. 3 hours creating momentum, creating pattern, creating movement, Niger following Mali, both following Burkina Faso, coordinated regional response, systematic rejection of monopoly, collective assertion of sovereignty. Same announcement, same language, same position, same commitment, same announcement demonstrating coordination, demonstrating unity, demonstrating that this is regional movement, continental transformation, systematic change, same announcement, same values, same priorities, same sovereignty, same termination, Starlink operations ended, contracts canceled, services discontinued, same termination, Niger making same choice, taking same action, asserting same sovereignty, same termination demonstrating pattern, demonstrating that this isn't isolated, isn't temporary, isn't reversible. Same alternative, Chinese satellite system, same technology, same partnership, same independence, same alternative demonstrating viability, demonstrating that replacement works, demonstrating that independence is possible, same alternative, proven, functional, successful, same independence, digital sovereignty, technology freedom, communication control, same independence, Niger achieving what Mali achieved, what Burkina Faso achieved, same independence, demonstrating this is replicable, demonstrating this is sustainable, demonstrating this is permanent. Niger stands with Burkina Faso, rejects Musk's threats, terminates Starlink operations, deploys Chinese system, achieves digital sovereignty. Niger stands with Burkina Faso. Solidarity declaration, unity statement, support announcement, stands with meaning supports, meaning defends, meaning joins. Niger standing with Burkina Faso. Not neutral, not independent, not separate, standing with, together, united, coordinated. Rejects Musk's threats, direct response, clear position, absolute refusal, rejects threats, not intimidated, not coerced, not influenced, rejects. Niger rejecting regional punishment threat, rejecting collective coercion, rejecting billionaire intimidation, rejects completely, permanently, finally. Terminates Starlink operations, action following position, implementation following decision, termination following rejection, operations terminated, contracts ended, services discontinued, terminated, not suspended, not reviewed, not negotiated, terminated, immediately, completely, permanently, deploys Chinese system, alternative activated, replacement implemented, independence established, Chinese system deployed, infrastructure operational, service functioning, connectivity ensured, deployed, working, succeeding, proving alternative viability, proving independence possibility, proving sovereignty reality, achieves digital sovereignty, goal accomplished, objective realized, independence established, digital sovereignty achieved, through Starlink termination, through Chinese deployment, through coordinated action, achieved, complete, permanent, Niger joining Mali, both joining Burkina Faso, all three achieving digital sovereignty, all three demonstrating independence, all three protecting sovereignty. Chad announces review of Starlink contract. Senegal begins negotiations with China. Tanzania explores satellite alternatives. Kenya examines digital independence options. Musk's threat backfires. Instead of isolating Burkina Faso, it triggers continental rejection of his monopoly. Chad reviewing Starlink contract, examining terms, analyzing provisions, evaluating alternatives, review triggered by Musk's threats, by regional terminations, by successful alternatives. Chad reviewing, considering, preparing, review suggesting termination coming, suggesting independence pending, suggesting sovereignty imminent, Senegal, negotiating with China, exploring alternatives, discussing deployment, planning independence, negotiations triggered by regional success, by proven alternatives, by demonstrated viability. Senegal, negotiating, planning, preparing, negotiations suggesting deployment coming, suggesting termination pending, suggesting sovereignty imminent. Tanzania, exploring satellite alternatives, researching options, evaluating systems, planning deployment, exploration triggered by Sahel success, by proven models, by demonstrated independence. Tanzania, exploring, researching, planning, exploration, suggesting decision coming, suggesting implementation pending, suggesting sovereignty imminent. Kenya, examining digital independence options, studying alternatives, analyzing sovereignty, planning freedom, examination triggered by regional transformation, by successful resistance, by proven alternatives. Kenya, examining, analyzing, planning, examination suggesting action coming, suggesting deployment pending, suggesting sovereignty imminent. Musk's threat backfires, opposite effect, reverse result, unintended consequence. Threat designed to isolate, instead unifies, designed to pressure, instead inspires, designed to coerce. Instead liberates, backfires, completely, spectacularly, catastrophically for Musk. Instead of isolating Burkina Faso, instead of making us stand alone, instead of pressuring us to surrender, instead creates solidarity, creates unity, creates movement. Instead of isolation, coordination. Instead of pressure, support. Instead of surrender, resistance. Threat backfiring, achieving opposite, creating continental rejection. It triggers continental rejection of his monopoly. Trigger not cause, accelerant not origin, catalyst not source. Triggers rejection that was building, that was growing, that was spreading. Triggers continental rejection, across Africa, multiple nations, systematic response. Continental rejection of monopoly, of surveillance, of control, of tech colonialism, triggered by threat. Accelerated by coercion, unified by intimidation. September 5th, 2025. 2 days after lawsuit, Musk's legal team realizes they're losing, not just lawsuit, market, not just Burkina Faso, region, not just revenue. Control. They're losing everything. 2 days after lawsuit, 48 hours, rapid realization, quick understanding, fast recognition, 2 days, that's all it took. For legal team to understand, for executives to recognize, for Musk to realize. 2 days, lawsuit filed, market collapsed, regional rejection triggered, everything lost, 2 days. Musk's legal team realizes, lawyers understanding, advisors recognizing, executives calculating, realizes they're losing, not winning, not succeeding, not achieving objectives. Losing, lawsuit not working, threats backfiring, strategy failing, realizes, finally, belatedly, uselessly. They're losing, not might lose, not could lose, not risk losing, losing, present tense, happening now, already lost, losing lawsuit because evidence proves contract was exploitative, losing market because customers choosing alternatives, losing region because nations coordinating resistance, losing control because sovereignty matters more than monopoly, losing completely, irreversibly, permanently, not just lawsuit, not just legal case, not just contract dispute, not just lawsuit, market share, revenue, control, influence, everything, not just lawsuit, everything that matters. Everything that drives profit, everything that ensures dominance, not just lawsuit, everything. Market collapsing, revenue disappearing, customers defecting, nations terminating, market lost, 47% customer loss in Burkina Faso, complete government migration. Total Mali termination, absolute Niger cancellation, market collapsing, revenue vanishing, profit evaporating, market lost. Not just Burkina Faso, not just one nation, not just single market, not just Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad reviewing, Senegal negotiating, Tanzania exploring, Kenya examining, region, multiple nations, continental movement, not just Burkina Faso, West Africa, Sahel, continent, not just one, many, all. Not just revenue, not just profit, not just money, not just revenue, control, influence, dominance, monopoly, strategic position, market power, everything that makes monopoly valuable, everything that creates leverage, everything that ensures dominance, not just revenue, everything. Control over digital infrastructure, control over communications, control over data, control over sovereignty, control lost, nations deploying alternatives, governments asserting independence, people choosing sovereignty, control lost, permanently, completely, irreversibly. They're losing everything, complete loss, total defeat, absolute failure, everything, lawsuit, market, region, revenue, control, influence, monopoly, everything. Lost, gone, finished. Everything that lawsuit was supposed to protect, everything that threats were supposed to preserve, everything that monopoly was supposed to guarantee. Everything. Lost. SpaceX offers settlement, drop lawsuit, revise contract terms, remove surveillance clauses, eliminate termination provisions, delete exclusivity requirements, reduce prices, desperate offer, panicked concession, attempt to salvage situation. SpaceX offers settlement, not court victory, not legal triumph, settlement, compromise, concession, surrender disguised as negotiation, SpaceX offering, not demanding, not requiring, not insisting, offering, desperate, panicked, defeated, drop lawsuit, withdraw case, abandon legal action, admit defeat, drop lawsuit, the $4.7 billion claim, the contract enforcement, the intimidation strategy, drop it, withdraw it, abandon it, drop lawsuit admitting it failed, admitting it backfired, admitting it was mistake, revise contract terms, change provisions, modify clauses, alter requirements, revise terms, the surveillance provisions, the termination powers, the monopoly requirements, revise them, change them, remove them, revise admitting they were problematic, admitting they were exploitative, admitting they were unacceptable, remove surveillance clauses, delete monitoring provisions, eliminate data access, abandon oversight, remove surveillance, the clauses I highlighted, the provisions I exposed, the terms I rejected, remove them, delete them, eliminate them, remove admitting they were wrong, admitting they were colonial, admitting they were violations, eliminate termination provisions, delete cutoff powers, remove arbitrary control, abandon leverage, eliminate termination, the provisions enabling threats, the clauses creating vulnerability, the terms ensuring control, eliminate them, delete them, remove them, eliminate admitting they were weapons, admitting they were coercion, admitting they were unacceptable, delete exclusivity requirements, remove monopoly provisions, eliminate competition prohibition, abandon control, delete exclusivity, the requirements preventing alternatives, the provisions ensuring monopoly, the terms creating dependency, delete them, remove them, eliminate them, delete admitting they were exploitative, admitting they were colonial, admitting they were unjust.